I've played way too much PSVR2. So much so that at one point, my hands didn't really look like my hands. And I got my hands on 12 launch titles, and there are some incredibly high highs and surprisingly not too many lows. And having such a wide array of titles has really made me understand how the tech works in the PSVR2 and what games are worth your time and money. So just a heads up, I received codes for all of these games by Resident Evil 8 and Horizon Call of the Mountain. So there's no better place to start than the flagship title, Horizon Call of the Mountain. And let's be real, I don't really like Horizon, and while I was excited to try it, it had nothing to do with the game series. I just wanted to test out the tech. And let me tell you, this game is hands down the best Horizon game ever, and it's such a great showcase for the PSVR2. The graphics are absolutely crazy, and as someone who only ever played PSVR1, I was blown away at how good it looked. PSVR1 was great, but the resolution seriously hampered it, but now with a 4K OLED HDR panel in this yoke, it looks phenomenal. I was in awe just looking around at the world and taking it all in. The main bulk of this game is climbing, and Jesus will your arms be tired. But once again, it highlighted another strength with PSVR2, and that are these Sense controllers. Now at first they were a bit awkward, and I couldn't count how many times I've done this stupid dance with it, you know, trying to see where my hand went in. But once you get used to it, they're really, really great controllers. As a game, Horizon does two things really well: exploration and atmosphere. As I said, climbing is the main part of this, but it's how they keep giving you new tools to make the climbing more engaging that just makes it so fun. At first you're just using your hands, but eventually you have climbing picks, grappling hooks and a boomerang, and in the final level it really ramps up using all of them in one sequence rather than one at a go. The climbing is only helped by the atmosphere. The game is gorgeous, and looking out at these vistas, they're just breathtaking. I find the most important thing in VR is just existing in the world. Do you feel a part of it? And in Horizon, I did. One thing that really helps it are these beacons that are the game's main collectible. They're usually off in the distance or hiding around corners, and it forced me to look around and get fully engrossed in the world. What the game fails on though is the story. I can't even remember the name of the protagonist, and I only beat the game like a day or two ago. The characters of Horizon were already bland, and Call of the Mountain didn't fix this issue with the series. The combat is a mixed bag. Using a ball will always be cool in VR, and during the combat you're on rails, basically only being able to move left or right, with a big dodge on the right analog stick and normal movement on the left. And I love this choice. Fighting these massive creatures with normal movement, shooting and crafting ammo all at once would have been a lot to take in. But eventually I did grow tired of the combat, mostly because enemies were super spongy. I couldn't one-shot a watcher in the eye like the normal games, so just imagine how spongy the bigger enemies were. It's a great showcase for the headset and the controllers, and I don't feel stung paying full price for this game, so it's definitely worth it. The next three games I'm going to highlight are all shooters, and the third one is an absolute must-play VR roguelike shooter. Light gun shooters are fecking fun, and VR ones are even more so. Zombieland VR Headshot Fever is an absolute must-play. It's a light gun shooter through and through with a good few weapons and plenty of replayability. The main mechanic is double tap headshotting enemies, which slows down time. So to get good scores and times you have to do this, and you can be super accurate. It took me a while to get used to the pace of this game, but once I did, I was blasting zombies left, right and centre, and I just kept coming back for more. I was dipping in for 30 minutes here or there, trying to beat a high score or complete one of the side objectives in a level, and it's simply a must play. The other shooter is After a Fall. It's Left 4 Dead in VR, and that's it. It's super fun shooting hordes of zombies with friends or randomers, but the AI is a bit brain dead on the larger zombies, but I think that might be an issue with VR where you can't have the enemies being too fast. Unfortunately, I don't have any friends to try this out with, but I'd say with a group of friends it's an absolute blast. And I've also noticed that online communities in VR games are usually a lot more positive than normal games, so there's still plenty of people to play with, and in my experience they're all friendly and they all like to talk and help each other out. My favourite PSVR2 game though is Light Brigade. It's a VR really tough roguelike World War II shooter with realistic gun physics and reload mechanics. I'll open by saying it's a bit rough around the edges, with some frame drops, soft locks, and a few enemy designs and the art assets feeling a bit cheap. But the core loop is so good that I can overlook all of this. The first class you start with has a Gerwer 43 rifle, or however you pronounce that gun, and it took me ages to get the hang of things. It's intense, with soldiers peppering you with bullets, all while you have to be super accurate, but also reload the gun properly. The amount of times I loaded the mag in and forgot to cock the weapon is crazy, and I died a lot because of it. But as you progress, the guns just get more and more fun, with one class using the STG-44, which is a favourite of mine from COD 5. The game has a very strange atmosphere that I can only describe as Fire Link Shrine ambience. The first level is covered with a thick layer of fog, and the later levels are dingy sewers and fiery towers. The strangest thing is that all the enemies are World War II soldiers bar a few, and it somehow works. I have no interest in the story though, because it's told through these cryptic one-frame cutscenes, but the atmosphere is on point. Where the game hooked me though was the progression. It's simply addictive. Each time you kill an enemy you get souls which level you up, and every time you level up you get one skill point to improve that class. So you can upgrade your weapons, health and passive bonuses, but also improve magic wands while wielding World War II weapons. The boss fights are intense, and as of writing this, I've only managed to beat the first phase of the final boss once, but the other two bosses are hard for the first few goes, but now I'm an absolute pro at them. And that's the best thing about roguelikes. If I can feel like my skill is improving each run, then I'm absolutely hooked. And because there was a bit of mechanical skill in movement and reloading, I could really notice my improvement. To be honest, this game is the reason why this video took so long to make, because I've just been playing it so much. I'm currently sitting at about 12 hours in it, which is double what I have in any other PSVR2 game. Yeah, it has some rough edges, but by god is it fun. This is another game that's 100% worth the price. Next I have 3 stationary games if you want to put them in that category. Job Simulator, What the Bat, and Tentacular. Job Simulator is the same funny game where you do menial tasks like sitting in an office while robots talk absolute shite to you, but it's entertaining and way better with the Sense controllers. What the Bat is so strange but in a good way. You basically have a bat for hands and go through different stages of your life. So as a baby you have to put blocks in the right shaped hole or brush your teeth as a kid, and then later in life you have to serve food to cats using only bats as hands. Once again it's entertaining, however it is $25 which could be a hard sell. If you like these wacky games then it is worth it at that price, but it is quite short. Tentacular is a similar kind of game, but you're basically a giant octopus and you have to help your local town with different tasks, and the writing in this game is really amusing. It starts with your 16th birthday where your human mom tells you you're adopted, and from then on the comedy just keeps coming. I mean, you're a giant octopus lifting heavy crates, uncovering the mysteries of a town, and I don't want to spoil that on you. Again, I think this is for a certain kind of person who likes these more relaxed, funny games, and at full price I can recommend this a lot more than What the Bat, especially because it's a good bit longer. And as the game goes on, the tasks just get wackier and wackier. Next we have a rapid fire of a few games that I didn't play too much of. Look, I know I play a lot of games, but unfortunately I can't give all the games the same amount of time, especially in VR, because I can only play it for an hour or two before I have to take a break. Swordsman VR is a sword combat game that is okay, but I honestly got bored after like 30 minutes, because I figured out all you have to do is stab the enemies in the leg and you win. Tetris Effect is Tetris in VR. It's the best way to play Tetris. It made me cry, and that's all I'll say. Res Infinite is a trippy on-rails shooter with some absolute banger songs, and honestly this game kind of confuses me, but it's just fun to run through and bop my head. Altair Breaker is a hack and slash action RPG which is very rough around the edges, but still has some fun. I would probably wait for a sale though, because it does feel a bit rough. It does have a very nice community though, and I played with a very nice Indonesian man the first day I played it. Next we have Resident Evil 8 VR, which went exactly how you would expect it would go with someone who isn't too good with horror. I only played about 45 minutes of Resident Evil 8 VR, and it was enough for me to shit myself, but also realised that it's absolutely phenomenal. VR is the best or worst way in my case to experience horror, because it elevates everything. I know where all the scares and enemies come from in this game, but VR just makes it so scary that I couldn't play it. You heal by pouring the medicine on your hand, and shooting lichens in VR is super fun. I could probably manage to play Mercenaries mode, but when I had that big fecker after me in the first encounter I nearly cried. It was just that scary. It's well worth it for VR, but I can't play it. The options are a bit crap though, so if you need to use comfort settings then I would be wary of this. Gran Turismo 7 in VR with a wheel is the most immersed I have ever felt in a game. My girlfriend owns a Mazda 2 and I was driving it in VR, and it's weird how accurate the interior is. I love GT7 with the wheel, and the headset has brought me back into the game. I'm dipping in, playing a few races every day, and dare I say it's even made me better at the game. Once again, this is 100% worth it, but if you struggle with motion sickness then this is a tough one to recommend. Also, if you weren't into GT7 then I don't think this will bring you in either. Song of the Smoke is the one game I want to play more of but haven't had the chance. It's a narrative driven survival game, and you make spears, bows, cook food and try to survive, but it's how tactile the game feels that makes it so good. To make a handle for a knife you pick up a bone, smack it with a rock to shape it, and then add flint to it. To create fire you place rocks down with some plant fibre and a stick, and to light a torch you strike it off a rock so it catches fire. I haven't played enough of this, but by all accounts it's absolutely fantastic. And once again, existing in the world is just good. It's eerie, you're against the elements, but how hands-on it is makes it feel so satisfying. I can't give it a full recommendation from what I've played, but feck me is it still good. As you can see, I played way too many games on PSVR2, but I absolutely love it, and there's still so many games that I still have to play. So keep an eye on a video about them sometime in the future. I really appreciate you watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my Destiny 2 video, because that video did really good. I'll see you all on the next video.